Hey, how's it going? Greg from VPEN back again. So what we're going to be doing today is covering off on how to initiate your disability claim on your MyVAC account, or how to initiate your pain and suffering claim, disability claim, disability benefits, whatever it is. I'm going to use those terms probably interchangeably, but that's basically what we're doing here. So let's get into it. So. When you're logged into your MyVac account, the first thing you're going to see is something like this. You've got your track your applications, what can I apply for under the applications and forms, any messages, and so on and so forth. If you're curious to know how to navigate this, we do cover that in an earlier video. You can check that one out. But so if you want to initiate a claim, you're going to go click over here. What can I apply for? You're going to click on that. It does take a minute to load. So while we're waiting here, if you don't know what to apply for, there is another video that kind of covers that off, especially using a Chat GPT program that'll help you identify things you might be eligible for. So you're going to apply based on your service type, either Canadian Forces or RCMP or one of the other ones. I'm going to go with Canadian Forces because that's what I was in. And I'm going to go down here to Disability Benefits, PSC, which stands for Pain and Suffering Compensation, which is the official name for it. And DP is Disability Pension. Again, they're all slightly different, but basically the same thing for our context here. So what I'm going to do here is click on this green button here that says Application Form to open it up. And it takes a minute, and it's going to take me to the form here momentarily. Again, while we're waiting for that, like I said, if you don't have any idea of what you need to apply for, you can go through the process that we have through the ChatGPT program. Okay, so once it takes a minute to open up, you're looking at this. So we're going to go through and press continue. It'll have your information here. If you've already properly set up your MyVac account, like we discussed earlier, you're going to have all that stuff already done. So you should be good to go with all that stuff. So you click Start Application. So the first thing you're going to need to do is fill out your profile. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that automatically in there for you. So you're going to click Continue. Are you still serving? Yes or no. So are you still in the military or a member of the RCMP, or are you retired? So in my case, I've retired. I'm going to click No. Have you ever served in the RCMP? In my case, no. So tell us about your service. You can add your service period. So I was, whatever. You could say you were regular force, reserve, class A, B, and C. Um, in this particular case, if you were a Class A reservist and you did some Class C and some Class B during your time, it doesn't really matter what you select for this unless there was a specific injury that happened on that time. So let's say you were on Class C, you were deployed somewhere, and you were given you received an injury there or exposed to some chemicals or anything like that there. That's when I would identify the Class C component there if that was relevant to this injury. But if you just have a kind of injury that's sort of, you know, uh, um, something like osteoarthritis that's kind of general over the course of your career, you can just pick whichever one, class A, B, or C. It doesn't really matter. I just pick the class A to keep it simple. Um, so in my case, whatever, I'll pick Class A. I will say, just arbitrarily that I enrolled in the year 2000 and released in the year 2020. Again, not true for me. I'm just putting this in there for the sake of this. Okay, so you'll see it's added there. If you have multiple service periods, like so, let's say you served for a few years, you retired, and then got back in, you just add a second one into that period of time, if you choose to. Okay, so next, would you like to tell us about your marital status? Yes or no? So if you are married, or common law, whatever, you can put that in there. The reason you'd put that in is so if you start collecting disability benefits, and you, God forbid, pass away, then your spouse will keep collecting those until you would have been 65 years old. So you can put that in there as well. So if you're married, you will need to put it. You will need to. You may need to tell them about your partner. I'm just going to put in single to keep it easier, but just know that you might have to do that. Um, Okay, so same with your children. All right, your children may be eligible to keep collecting your disability pension as well, especially until you're the age of 65. And there's also some benefits, so there's no reason not to put in your children's information there. So again, you can add the children's information on that point. Again, for simplicity, I'm just going to say no, but if you do have children, you can add that in and put their information in there as well. So are you an employee of Veterans Affairs? Yes or no? So I'll just say no. If you are, you can put that in. You probably know more about this than I do if you're an employee of Veterans Affairs, so you don't need to do that. Okay, so identify your conditions is the next one. So what conditions you actually have. So do you have a service-related injury or illness? All right. If you say no, then there's nothing to apply for. So obviously we're going to say yes. Okay. And then you can select what medical conditions are relevant to you here. So, it covers off on a lot of common ones here, hearing loss, tinnitus, stomach and bowel conditions, so on and so forth. Your shoulder conditions, neck conditions, back, knees, hips, all those usual ones, as well as on over here your medical conditions such as PTSD, depression, and so on. Now, if you have a diagnosis, then you can put that in. Or correction, you can put it like if you have a diagnosis for a mental health condition, then you can identify which one it is here. If you don't, just pick one or pick all of them or whichever one you think might be relevant to you. It doesn't really matter at this point. Let's say you diagnosed yourself here with PTSD, and it turns out you have depressive disorder, not PTSD. When the actual clinician goes through and identifies that, that's fine. They will make the changes later on, so it's not necessarily relevant here. So you can put this in now. The good thing about this is you can identify multiple conditions. So let's say I've got tinnitus, and then I've got a left ankle condition, right? Obviously, you can select your whichever one's relevant to you. If whatever you are identifying is not on here, then you can identify it as well by clicking other, and then put down here. So let's say you have a frostbite condition. Let's say you have you know whatever other conditions it happens to be, you can identify that here. Again, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to leave it as one condition here. I'm just going to say it's left ankle, but that would be what what you might do here. Actually, correction, I'm going to do right ankle because I actually already have a left ankle condition in, and it might confuse the system. So I'm going to say right ankle, and put that in. So I'm going to say go through next here. Okay. Then it gets into my ankle condition right here. Now, if I had multiple conditions here, it would show me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many I put in there. And I'd have to go through a similar process for each one of these. So for this, I'm going to click continue. And so that if you had this condition for more than 6 months, yes or no. If you haven't had it for more than 6 months, it's not considered permanent yet. So likely they would deny that condition. So I'm going to say yes, I've had it for more than 6 months. Do you have that medical diagnosis? You may or may not have a medical diagnosis at this point. If you do, great. You're going to click yes and put it down. And have you ever received a condition payment for this? If you do not have a medical diagnosis, that's fine. You click no and you go from there. You do not need a medical diagnosis at this point in the process. You will definitely need one by the end. But at this point, if you don't have one yet, you're just saying, hey, my ankle hurts and I want to start the process and go check it out. That's fine. That's more than fine for what we're doing here. You don't need to do anything else other than that. So in this case, I'll say no, I don't have a diagnosis. Am I awaiting, receiving, or ever received payment from anyone other than VAC? So this could be, you may have got paid out by WSIB or some other similar workers' compensation program. Possibly you're on long-term disability with an insurance provider, like a private insurance provider, or anything like that. So if that is the case for you, you can say yes, and if not, you're going to say no. So go from there. Now, we're going to get into here. So how is this condition related to your service? And how does it affect your quality of life? So these are two very important things, especially how is it related to your service? That's considered what's called a causation narrative. So how did the military cause your or how do you think the military caused your condition? It's very important that you fill this out with as much detail as possible, in order to cover all the things. I do have a separate video addressing the causation narrative specifically, causation and quality of life specifically. So I'm not going to go into much detail here, but if you have any doubts about that, about like whether or not you're filling it out correctly, I highly suggest watching that video. And if you still have questions, you can email one of us at VPEN, and we're happy to answer any questions about it. So same thing about the quality of life. You want to put in how it affects your quality of life. I do cover that in detail. That's definitely important, but not as important as far as the causation statement. That's very, very important. You want to put a lot of time and energy and thought into doing that correctly. Um, Okay, so, I didn't actually put anything in. So I'm just going to put in some gibberish for the time being because I'm not actually going to submit this. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. Okay, so I put my gibberish in there, and then from there, third-party consent. So what this third-party consent is would you like to authorize anyone to give information to VAC? So this might be a doctor, it might be, perhaps your spouse or a parent or brother, sister, something like that might be able to support you in that application process. So you can include that if you choose to. Otherwise, no, you don't want to include them. Okay. Last step is you're going to review the form. Okay, so it covers off on all your personal data and so on, and then you can say confirm. Okay, and then that would submit the form. There might be one other step after this, but I don't want to step it because I don't want to actually submit this unintentionally, because it is, again, false. So now, if you notice anything is incorrect on here, you can edit it as you go through the process, and go from there. I'm going to go back, return to the overview, which is over here. Now, if at any point in time you say, okay, I want to come back to this, you can click save and exit, right, which will save it and allow you to come back to it. It won't actually submit it to VAC yet, but it will keep it saved for later on, and you can also delete it if you so choose. So if you do decide to do it, this whole process on the website, this is the way to do it. And again, if you're confused or if you have question, I definitely recommend reaching out to anyone here at VPEN. We're happy to help. Alternatively, you can call VAC and ask them. The numbers available in a lot of the documents that we provide for you here. So please feel free to call them or reach out to us, and we're happy to help. So that's how to submit your online application from there. So if you want to watch some of the next videos about the next steps, but that's it for this one. So go drink some water.